Hi everyone! ARC challenges are a huge part of the ARC community, specifically monthly challenges. The point of them is to draw every day for a month, usually following a prompt list. I noticed that a lot of them take place in October specifically, Inktober, OCtober, Goretober, but the one I decided to do this year is Cringetober. It's something right up my alley, and I was really excited to hop on it. But I didn't follow the rules exactly. Usually you would draw a prompt per day for 31 days. I treated it more like a checklist of things I need to draw before the month ends. I've never finished a challenge like this before because I would get burnt out very quickly, so I wanted to do this at my own pace. And it worked. Not only did I enjoy doing this, I even finished it early. This year the prompts cover multiple medias. A few of them have to do with makeup, cosplaying, and crafting. I am only doing illustration. I did get a little bit confused on some of the prompts, but more on that later. Okay, enough talking, there's a lot to go through. On the first day, I stayed in my comfort zone. I picked this screenshot of Lyra and Bonbon from My Little Pony. I have drawn this before, so this was also a redraw of my older works. I also decided to do no line art here. Before this, I was doing a lot of line art, and kind of felt like I was forgetting how to color my usual way. I like this screenshot a lot. If I remember correctly, it's from the episode where the creators really played into a lot of headcanons the fandom had. Though it does make me laugh that these two do this, then say,
"You're my very best friend."
Right. I like how this turned out, though Lyra's arm looks a little bit awkward, I think. I very quickly did a background as well, but I love how their faces look. This wasn't much of an experiment for me. Like I said, this is very much in my comfort zone, but it was a good start. Tsundere describes a character that comes off harsh and cold at first, but slowly opens up and shows their softer side. It's one of my favorite tropes, and a lot of my characters fall under it, but I decided to use Bonnie for this. She starts off very cold, distant, and off-putting at first, then opens up more over the course of the story. The only one she's comfortable with from the start is Miku, her childhood friend. Sam is the one to approach her, show her empathy and care. She introduces her to other characters and helps her open up. For Sam it later turns into a crush, but Bonnie is her ace, so their friendship gets a little awkward for a while, but after some time they move past that. For this prompt I drew Sam and Bonnie hanging out in the library, and Bonnie starts to feel more comfortable and lets go her harsh facade. She's not very expressive, so it's a very subtle difference. I need to draw her more. I love her face, her blue-eyed stare specifically. I love that when I post her, half of the comments are blue-eye memes.
Wait, do you have any gum?
What'd you say?
Sorry.
I'm all eyes. I mean ears.
I really like how this turned out. The characters look nice, though I get lazy with the background and just use the picture. I need to draw characters interacting more often. I was so excited for this prompt. I have two perfect characters for this, Tamotsu and Johnny. They are from my Magical Girl story, and they are a villain duo. Their power is turning into weapons for one another. Tamotsu turns into a big colorful hammer, and Johnny turns into an edgy scythe. I wanted to work on their weapon forms more, so this worked out perfectly. I decided to draw Tamotsu wielding the scythe. This was also a pose practice. I was going to just draw over my reference, but this is a challenge, so I drew it by hand. You can see me importing a picture of the scythe and drawing over it in a speed paint. To be clear, it's from my sketchbook. I was working on a design already. I love imagining how these characters would fight with their powers. Tamotsu gets really unhinged and chaotic when in a fight. He's really bouncy, quick, and often laughs in his opponent's face. I also love imagining how the two of them switch during fights. Hopefully I can visualize those ideas someday, maybe in drawings, or maybe even in animation, who knows? Anyway, I really like how this turned out, and the process was very fun. I love his facial expression, the colors, the pose, the scythe, and this is where my love for this kind of background began. Do a soft gradient, put a zoomed in negative version of the character on top, and set it to soft light. It's super easy and looks really cool. Okay, this one wasn't very successful. I don't draw animal characters and full-on furries very often. I can do a mostly human character with some animal features, but I'm not on furry art level yet. For my persona, I went in a pretty simple direction. My username is Carrot, so I did a bunny. Not gonna lie, I was not feeling this at all. I didn't even feel like cleaning up the sketch, and the coloring was very rushed. I didn't even post it anywhere. Yeah, let's not focus on this one too much. But shout out to furries. There's a lot of really talented furries out there. Gijinka is basically just a humanization. It's when you take something or someone that isn't human and to draw it as a human. I love doing that. It takes up at least half of my art. It's fun imagining what the character would look like, what features they would have, how tall they would be, all that stuff. I especially love it with media like My Little Pony, Bluey, or FNAF, just to name a few, where there is complete creative freedom. But anyway, for this prompt, I kind of stayed in my comfort zone, but still did something new. I decided to draw this goth pony from one of the My Little Pony episodes. I think her name is Inky Rose. She's so pretty. I didn't go too crazy with her, maybe the face a little bit. The coloring was a little rushed on the body and clothes though, gonna be honest. I experimented with the background here. I did the negative background again, also added a frame. Overall, I think this is cute. The expression isn't exactly like on the original though. Mine looks sad, while the original somehow doesn't. I might draw her again in the future. For this prompt, I used another character of mine. Megan fits here perfectly with her star eyes. She is from the same story as Tamotsu, and she's also a villain. Her power is shooting lasers out of her eyes. That's why they look the way they do. Another thing about this universe is that I gave all the characters their own styles. Megan is a scene girl. She's also really bratty and mean, but has a very fragile ego. I decided to do no line art here again, though it took much longer than it would have with line art, but I pulled through. I also did a different pose. I wanted to make it look like she's taking a selfie. I was a little lost on what to do for the background. In the end, it turned out a bit too simple for my liking. The scene style is known for a lot of bright, clashing colors and patterns. I could have done more, I think. But overall, I still like this a lot. I love her star eyes. I also want to share her backstory, but spoiler, I draw her again later, so I'll do that when I get to it. I didn't think too much on this one, to be honest. I took my characters Nicole, Melanie, and Bonnie and did a bob off. Yeah, I guess I like bobs a lot, and baby bangs. I didn't try too much on the composition, but they're just kind of standing there. Nicole feels really awkward, Bonnie stares, as she often does, and Melanie is weirded out by that. Actually, looking at the drawing now, I forgot to give Melanie chains like I planned. Whoops. But I think this turned out pretty okay. I like Melanie's expression. I also didn't realize how short Bonnie and Nicole are. They're also both grumpy at first. Wow, I'm so creative. I'm so good at writing different characters. I didn't think too much on this one either. I immediately went for the Patrick Bateman memes, but not the Sigma Beta Alpha ones, the cutie patootie, kitty cat, baby girl ones. I decided to draw this specific picture. I love it so much. I usually don't draw portraits like this digitally, so this was tough. I don't know, I find it so much easier to draw portraits on paper. The coloring is also completely different from what I usually do. I didn't bother cleaning it up, to be honest. In the end, this one is not my favorite. I think you can guess who it's supposed to be, but it's more so because the original photo is very recognizable, rather than me recreating it really well. Let's not focus on this one too much.
Bye, bitch.
This one was tough for me. Growing up, I wasn't much of a gamer. The most I played were Flash games. But after a lot of brainstorming, I remembered Mini Ninjas. It came out in 2009, and it follows a group of kids that are ninjas. An evil samurai lord is turning animals into mindless minions to build his evil army, and you have to defeat them. You start off with just one character, go through levels defeating enemies, unlocking the other ninjas with unique abilities, collect bonuses, and defeat bosses. I didn't actually play the game myself, but I still have a lot of good memories attached to it. My cousin had the game on his computer, and whenever my siblings and I would come over to his house, we would all sit around and watch him play it. Then we actually picked out a character each, made matching weapons, and would play fight as them. It was a little tough though, since there are only 2 female characters, and that wasn't quite enough for us. I don't remember which one I chose. I also would rewatch the cutscenes from the game over and over again. I still really like the art style and the little sounds they make. For this prompt, I decided to draw Kunoichi because her design looked more interesting to me compared to Suzume. Originally, I was gonna redraw the screenshot with the apple, but that didn't really work out, so I decided to just draw her standing. I ended up aging her up because I really did not feel like drawing a child that day. I changed some things about her design as well, couldn't help myself. This was very quick, but I like it. She actually reminded me of Melina a little bit. Oh boy, I love me a ship dynamic. There is the classic enemies to lovers, grumpy and happy characters, yada yada, but my all-time favorite is the friends to lovers dynamic. I'm using my characters for this again, this time Oliver and Nicole from my Warmed Up story. I consider these my main OCs, even if I don't draw them as often as my other characters. That story is a slice of life, there's nothing supernatural, and it mostly focuses on the relationships of the characters, both platonic and romantic. Oliver and Nicole's relationship is the main focus. It is the annoying, slow burn, miscommunication. They both obviously like each other and everyone but them sees it. It takes forever for them to get together. They're both too scared to confess in case it's one-sided. The juicy stuff. Once they get together, it doesn't stop either. Oliver is really affectionate with people he cares about, and he's very open about his feelings and emotions, but he is also very particular about respecting boundaries and all that stuff. While Nicole is new to all this, she's never been in a relationship before, she's always nervous, gets flustered easily, and is a lot more closed off. It takes her a good while to open up and feel more confident about herself. Nicole isn't really a self-insert, but her personality is pretty heavily based on me and my relationship with romance and things related to that. I love these two so much. I really hope that someday I will have enough patience to make an actual comic about them that will last more than 9 chapters. For this prompt, I drew them sitting, touching pinkies and blushing. Hehehehe. I didn't use any references for this, and I think the poses actually turned out really nice, even the hands. I definitely still struggle with hands sometimes, especially at different angles. Anyway, I really like the end result, and it's one of my favorites from this challenge, even though it's just a colored sketch. He wants that cookie so effing bad. This prompt was very confusing to me at first, not gonna lie. I have never heard this term before, but from my very quick research, it's a writing trope where an event almost happens 5 times, then finally happens the 6th time. Something like that. At first I took this very literally. I was like, it's a writing trope, what am I supposed to do? But my very handsome and smart friend gave me a really amazing idea, so credits to him for this. I am drawing Nicole and Oliver again. I made this into a little comic made of 8 frames about Nicole wanting to confess to Oliver but backing out each time until Oliver does it himself. I'm still not sure how I want it to happen in the story, but this will do for now. I like how the first slide turned out. It was fun to draw these two hanging out and interacting. The second slide is a little worse, I think. I put a lot of energy into the first 4 frames, and the rest was pretty rushed. I also had trouble figuring out how to do the confession. I just knew what Oliver will say. He's the type of guy to say, "Can I be your boyfriend?" And I love that for him. This also made me realize that I am not ready to do a comic right now. I could barely finish 8 frames. But I still like the end result, and it actually did really well on my Instagram. I really didn't expect that. I need to draw these 2 more. For the next prompt, I did a trend that I didn't get to do when it was happening. Some time ago there was a trend where people drew Hatsune Miku in national clothing of their country, or as a typical resident of that country. If I'm not mistaken, it came from the trend of drawing Brazilian Miku, then over time it expanded to other countries as well. I think this trend is really beautiful, but for some reason I didn't hop on it at the time, but better late than never. I'm Ukrainian, so I drew Miku in national Ukrainian clothing. I really like our national clothing, the braided hair, flower crowns with ribbons, embroidery, long skirts. To be honest, I never cared about it that much growing up, but making this drawing made me appreciate it so much more. I had a lot of fun drawing this, though I now realize that I once again forgot to add necklaces. Love that for me. For this prompt, I'm using Oliver again. I've wanted to draw him genderbend for a while, but for some reason never got to it. I didn't change the design too drastically. Personally, I'm not a fan of genderbends that completely change the character, like when a tall, buff man gets turned into a skinny, short woman with a big chest and small waist, or the other way around. Not really my thing. For Olivia, I softened the features and made the hair a little bit longer. A little pixie cut moment.
No, I got a pixie cut. Yeah, I don't know.
But overall, the design didn't change too much. I really like how the sweater turned out. I love doing knitted patterns like this. This was very quick, but I think it turned out really cute. This prompt confused me at first as well. I just took it very literally again. I thought it was taking a quote and slightly changing it, but it's actually just a character using a quote from a different media. Something like that. I actually found an incorrect quote generator, and I might use it for short comics in the future. This is the quote I got. For this, I am using Melanie and her girlfriend Rachel. They are from my Magical Girls story, and they are in a superhero team called Many Magic Squad. Rachel's power is flowers, kind of like Flora from Winx Club, and Melanie's power is metal, but I recently changed it to blood as well. She can use her own blood as a weapon. They are dating, obviously, but this comic takes place before they got together. Melanie puts on a rough facade, while Rachel is really flirty and confident. After they get together, their dynamic is basically opposites attract. Rachel is very extroverted and outgoing, while Melanie is a lot calmer and introverted, and obviously their aesthetics are polar opposites as well. I love Melanie's look in this. I need to use it again. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this one. Animation meme is a short animation of a character dancing or singing to a beat of a song. Usually it's a looping animation. The meme part comes from people recreating the same animation with their characters and styles. I was not very excited for this, gonna be honest. I like animating, but it's just such a long and messy process for me. I also wasn't an animation meme kid growing up. I'm sure I watched some of them here and there, but it was never a full-on phase for me. I actually had an animation meme drama phase at some point. There's just so much drama in the community, and a lot of it is about copying. Even though the entire point of this community is copying, I'm assuming it's just that a huge chunk of it is actual children. But anyway, this isn't the point. For inspiration, I searched up animation meme on TikTok and picked out something I liked. I ended up choosing this animation by this artist. It's very cute, challenging enough for me, but also simple enough so I can do it in a day, you know? I will draw my character Cat for this. She is also from the Warmed Up story. I started by drawing the character. Since I will be animating in a light motion, I am drawing the character in separate pieces. Every part that needs to move has to be separate. I did the head without eyes and mouth, the eyes and mouth in multiple variations, the braids, the body, and the arms. Nothing crazy here, so let's move on to the difficult part. Warning, this is my second time using a light motion, so I'm sorry for what you are about to witness. I actually wasted like 30 minutes trying to do this the first time. I just decided not to connect the hair to the head for some reason, and it turned out like this. Yeah, no. I started over, and the second time it only took me about 15 minutes to do the animation. If you need a tutorial, I am not qualified for that at all, but in simple terms what I did is I connected the eyes, mouth and the braids to the head so they move together. I added some movement to that, then made the mouth change and the hair sway from side to side. Then I animated the arms and body separately, if I remember correctly. After that I connected everything, the arms, head and body, and gave some movement to the overall character. I got this. Better now, but then I realized that I was supposed to make her blink, went back and added that, and this is the final animation. The blink made it a lot better, I think. Then I went into my editing app to do the background, text, and put it all together. I'm sure you can do it all in a light motion, but I'm not confident enough to do that. It's been a while since the last time I drew Cat. I really love her, and she's always really fun for me to draw. Like I said, she's from the Warmed Up story. She appears later in the plot. She meets Tasha, then not too long after that they start dating. While Oliver and Nicole's relationship takes a while to happen, Tasha and Kat move pretty fast. They quickly start liking each other, get together not too long after that, and in the relationship they are really affectionate and comfortable right away. At first they are happy and everything is perfect, but then some issues do arise. Tasha spends pretty much all her time with Kat, and as a result starts to neglect her friendships. And Kat starts to feel nervous about moving too fast since it has caused issues in her last relationship, but they work it out and find that balance. While yes, they do love each other and are obsessed with each other, they still need time and space for themselves. Anyway, here is the final animation. I can't put this on in the video, but you can see it with the music on my shorts, reels, and on my TikTok. I like the result. I think there is progress compared to my first animation. I mean, there's blinking and lip syncing at least, but there's definitely a lot of room to grow. For this next section, I want to give a warning for discussions of body image and things related to that. It's not going to be anything too graphic, but if you don't want to hear about this at all, you can skip to the timestamp on the screen. Okay, so I did not follow this prompt exactly since I've never been full-on bullied before. Surprisingly so. I have been teased here and there, but it was mostly in my friend group, just friendly teasing. So I changed this to things I'm insecure about instead. For me, it has always been my body. Even when I was pretty thin, I still felt very insecure. For years, I've been wearing a lot of baggy clothes. I don't like showing off my body at all. And in the last couple of years, my body has changed a lot, and I'm still getting used to it. I don't look the way I did at 16 or 17, which is fine because I'm literally not that age anymore. It's slowly getting better though, and I'm trying to be more physically active to get my health in check. For this, I drew myself in an outfit I've been wearing recently and tried to include things I am insecure about. I actually realized that I include these things in my art already. Skin rolls, stretch marks, pimples, spots on the skin, stuff like that. And it's one of my favorite parts of the drawing process. It helps me normalize these things in my head and they don't bother me in real life. For example, I have quite a few stretch marks on my body, but they never ever bothered me because I have been drawing them for years now. Like, if I don't mind them in art, why should I when it comes to real life, you know? So yeah, still working on that. I tried to make the drawing look like myself the best I could, and looking at it, it's a completely normal body. If I saw someone that looked like this, I would not pay any attention to their body at all. Insecurities are so weird, man. I like the end result, and now it's my new profile picture. Free-to-use bases are bases that are free to use, duh. And bases are just these blank character models that you draw over. They're very useful for beginner artists. They can be made from show screenshots or drawn from scratch. A lot of artists draw their own bases so people can use them. There is some debate about them. There are people who think using a base is cheating. Personally, I don't see an issue with using bases. You just have to be honest about it, make sure it's okay to use the base, and credit the creator if the base is made by someone specific. But that's if you plan on posting the art online. On the internet there are rules. Offline, I feel like you can do whatever helps you learn. My experience with bases is very small. I remember drawing over My Little Pony bases in MS Paint as a kid. I've used some pose bases here and there, but I don't think I've ever full-on drawn over one. I chose this pony base by this user on DeviantArt. It's really pretty, and I think it isn't too far off from my style. I'm drawing myself for this again. I have drawn myself as a pony before, but I'm still not that great at it. I changed a few things from the base, added some more fluff and stuff. Overall, I think this turned out pretty cute. It was interesting to do. Again, if you use a base, be honest about it and credit the creator. AU stands for Alternative Universe, in case you didn't know. Basically, it's when you take a character or characters and put them in a different universe, be it a media you like or just a twist on the original story. For this, I took Oliver and Tasha and put them in Five Nights at Freddy's. Crazy, I know. Oliver and Tasha are childhood friends. They've always been inseparable. When they were younger, Oliver was bullied at school and Tasha was looking out for him and trying to protect him as much as she could. Oliver was mostly bullied for his sexuality. He's bisexual, but to his bullies it meant gay. At first they just call him names, but it pretty quickly turned physical. After a particularly bad incident, Oliver's mom made him change schools. To help him in a way, at one point Tasha offered to pretend like the two of them are dating, so Oliver would be left alone. They were already very close and physically affectionate, so things didn't change much for them, and it helped. Everyone moved on from the situation, and at one point Oliver and Tasha just told everyone that they broke up but stayed friends. Around that time, Tasha realized that she's a lesbian. If you haven't connected the dots yet, she's Kat's girlfriend. I'm still working on the details of how they met and all that stuff. But it's not Tasha's first relationship. At one point she kind of dated Tyler, but it didn't last very long because Tyler realized that they are RAs. So they broke up, but stayed best friends. In the main story, the two of them share a dorm room. Info dump over. For this drawing, I went in a pretty obvious direction. Oliver and Tasha are security guards exploring the pizzeria. Oliver is oblivious to everything, while Tasha is completely freaked out. I actually drew Freddy completely from memory here. Not sure if that's a flex or a cry for help. Overall, I like this and it was fun to draw. I experimented with the shading. I love Tasha's face. She's definitely dying by the end of the night. I love alternative fashion. I mean, I made a whole universe of fashionable people with superpowers fighting each other, so I could draw them in cool outfits. I also love doing a dress-up doll kind of thing with my characters, just drawing a base, then drawing outfits on top of that. It's so fun. That's what I'm doing for this, using Rachel. She is very Garu inspired. Her style is very girly, showing off her body, a lot of pink, leopard print, and lots of accessories. She's also a trans girl. I kind of forget about that sometimes. In the story, she's in a superhero team, like I mentioned. She's kind of the unofficial leader. The first outfit is the one from the Incorrect Quote comic, but with some more details. I also wanted to give her a different hairstyle. Second one is probably my favorite. It's a little bit more toned down, but I love it so much. And I really love this hair on her. The third one is a little bit more crazy and colorful. Maybe this is her party outfit or something. Her hair is teased, she has extensions on. This took a while to do with all the adjusting and erasing. I find these a lot easier to do with line art. I have drawn something like this without it, and from what I remember it was a little tricky with all the layers. In the end, I am very happy with this, and I want to do the same with the other characters. I just know it will take forever though. For the next prompt, I went back to my roots and did My Hero Academia fan art after like 4 years. I went through multiple lists of Tumblr sexy women and decided on Miku. For composition, I didn't try very hard and just drew her standing. I made sure to use official art of her for color reference, because this is diabolical. This was a very quick one, but I like it. Not much else to say on that. So for this one, you are meant to actually do a closet cosplay, but since I'm drawing all of the prompts, I changed it a bit to fit my characters. I took Miku and Dan and drew them dressed as characters they get compared to a lot. In their case, it's Gumball Watterson and Dean Winchester. I don't really see the resemblance, to be completely honest, but a challenge is a challenge. I imagine this is them at a Halloween party or something like that. I actually haven't drawn them together before for some reason. They are from the same universe as Bonnie. Later in the story, Miku and Dan start dating, but it takes a little while. Miku is openly gay in the student council, the art department specifically, while Dan is a captain of a basketball team, very popular at their college, and a closeted bisexual. These two are kind of a slow burn. There's a lot of miscommunication, they have more important things to think about, but after they clear everything up, it's all very sweet and cute. I should draw them more. I've been so focused on the other characters, but they deserve love too. Anyway, this drawing is okay. Maybe it would have looked better if I colored the line art, but I didn't feel like doing that. I also feel like the arms look a little awkward. Whatever, I drew it, prompt done, moving on. For this section, I want to give a gore warning. It's going to be all colorful and cutesy to fit the prompt, but I still feel like I should let you know. If you don't want to see that, go to the timestamp on the screen. Candy gore describes a type of gore art that's really colorful, more cutesy, goopy, and often has the organs replaced with candy. I have dipped my toes into normal gore art here and there. I like to draw blood every once in a while, but as far as I remember, I've never done candy gore. I'm using Tamotsu again, he fits this theme really well. I cranked up the saturation, colored a little differently from how I usually do it. I like the color scheme I ended up with, but I feel like it could look more interesting overall. It was a fun experiment though. I also put together this little video with the colors shifting and it looks kinda cool. For this one, I once again stayed in my comfort zone. I'm not a big adult cartoon watcher. The only one I've watched and enjoyed is South Park, so I decided to redraw this piece of the main four boys standing at the bus stop. I draw this every once in a while to see if I can make them look their age. I have a problem when it comes to drawing children. I can draw toddlers and young teenagers. Anything in between is difficult for me. That's exactly where these characters are. My older drawings of them definitely look too old. It got better over time though. I think they still look a teeny bit too old, but that aside, I think this turned out okay. Cartman looks a little goofy, but the other boys look nice. This prompt immediately made me think of one of my favorite childhood shows that I never see anyone talk about, Kappa Mikey. It's an animated show from 2006 about an American guy, Mikey Simon. He wants to be an actor but fails every audition. Then a scratch card literally just flies into his face, saying he won an audition for a Japanese show called Lily Moo. He joins the cast, and from there most of the episodes follow the same structure. It starts off with a Lily Moo episode, but something goes wrong and they have to stop filming. Then for the most of the episode they do something stupid, and in the end we see the actual Lily Moo episode. The characters are also complete opposites of their Lily Moo counterparts. Mikey in the show is a brave hero. In reality, he's a dumb, arrogant loser. Lily in the show is Mikey's love interest. In reality, she despises him. Mitsuki in the show is very serious. In reality, she's a cutie pie and has a crush on Mikey, but he ignores her. I will take her if he doesn't want her. Gonard in the show is the villain. In reality, he is the definition of a himbo. Guano in the show is a Pokemon parody. All he says is his name. In reality, he's the director of Lilymoo and is the smartest in the cast. The animation is definitely dated, but the art style is interesting as well. Mikey is drawn in a very simplified style, made of simple shapes with thick outlines, reminiscent of a lot of other early 2000s American cartoons, while all the Japanese characters are drawn in a typical anime style. The whole show parodies a lot of anime cliches and tropes, the exaggerated expressions, bubbles and graphics, sound effects, jumpy and stylized animation. One of my favorite parts are the scene transitions with the little dancing sushis. I don't know, watching this show is literally one of my first ever memories, and it makes me feel very nostalgic. At one point I was rewatching it every couple months. For the drawing, I redrew a screenshot from the show. I even decided to keep the different line art styles to be a little bit more accurate. It turned out okay, I think. Not my favorite, but not the worst from this. And let me know if you've seen this show. I've literally never seen anyone talk about it, and it makes me feel old. Mary Sue describes a character that is often a self-insert, very overpowered, the best at everything they do, loved by everyone, pretty much flawless. Design-wise, they are often very loaded. They have a lot of accessories, bright colors, maybe wings or horns or something like that, different eye colors, rainbows. These kind of characters are considered cringe because they are very idealized, not well written, and the designs have a lot going on. But I'm pretty sure a lot of them are made by actual children that obviously don't have a lot of experience to write imperfect characters, and for the design they just throw together everything they find cool. I think it's kind of charming actually. I was very excited for this prompt. I'm using Megan again. She kind of fits into the Mary Sue category, or at least she thinks so. It's a front that she puts on to hide how truly fragile she is. She had a very rough childhood that made her deeply insecure and full of hatred, but she decided to not hide behind it. At first, this bratty and confident persona was just a persona, but over time she convinced herself that that's who she actually is. There are moments where her ego gets hurt and she either crashes out or completely closes off for a while. That's basically her backstory and the reason why she became a villain. Her design fits the Mary Sue vibe as well. Like I mentioned, the scene style has a lot of bright clashing colors, including rainbows, so I cranked up the saturation and went crazy with this. The background also fits the vibe so much better. I had so much fun with this drawing. I love the pose, I love the colors, and I love how the result looks overall. It took a lot of time, and I think it paid off. This is definitely one of my favorite pieces from this challenge. Gacha Life is a character creation app where you can obviously make characters, but also make little scenes with them. This app is very popular with children, which is why I think it's considered cringe by a lot of people. To be fair though, a lot of the stuff made in it is very unique, to say the least. And another thing I see a lot is a Gacha OC. Similarly to a Mary Sue, it's a character with a very loaded design. Anyway, this prompt confused me a little bit at first. I wasn't sure what to do here. So I decided to just download the app, play around in it and see where it takes me. I ended up making Oliver, Tasha and Kat in the maker. I was too tired to make Nicole and Tyler. Sorry. I was very disoriented at first, and it was hard to find options that fit the characters. I specifically chose those three because their designs are more simple compared to my other characters, but it was still tricky. I spent about 20 minutes doing this, then I wanted to try and make a scene with them. I was even more confused now, so I ended up just clicking on stuff, did something very random and gave up after a few minutes. Honestly, this made me respect the Gacha kids more, especially the ones that do full-on animations in this. This is my creation, my magnum opus. Then I decided to draw a little scene of Tasha showing this masterpiece to Oliver and Kat. The drawing was very quick, it's again just a colored sketch. Overall I like this, it's really silly. For this prompt I decided to give this Markiplier picture another try. I have tried to draw this before, but it wasn't that good. This time around it's better. I don't have much to say about this piece. It was quick, I put a little more effort into it compared to the Patrick Bateman piece. It's okay, I still prefer to do portraits on paper. I also didn't end up posting this. I think I had to post something else on that day, then just moved on with the other prompts. Mascot horror describes horror media mostly known for its mascot. Usually it's something like a puppet, animatronic, or a toy that was turned evil, and the story often takes place in places like a pizzeria, daycare, toy factory, etc. This genre has become very popular in recent years. I think the most well-known example of this is Five Nights at Freddy's. That's the one I chose, obviously. I decided to redraw this image from FNAF Security Breach in my style with my human designs for the characters. I don't think I've ever drawn these guys together. I really took my time with each character. For Roxy, I already had a full design done. I see her being the tallest and pretty muscular. Her hair is always a little difficult to me, but it turned out okay this time. For Glamrock Freddy, I actually did not have a full design. I have drawn him before, but it was just his face. I see him being a little chubby, and for the outfit, I think I used David Bowie as inspiration. I think in the end the design isn't too bad. Monty is in the same boat as Freddy. I have drawn him before, but it was only chest up. I like him a lot though, his design is a little bit more edgy compared to the other characters. And for Glamrock Chica, I already had the full design done. It took me a while to come up with the design I like when the game first came out, but I really love what I ended up with. I gave the girls leggings both to resemble the original designs more, and to make it look more appropriate since they are supposed to work with children, you know? It also reminds me of 80s fitness clothing, which works here perfectly. This drawing took a while, but I think it really paid off. It's definitely in my top 3 favorite pieces from this challenge. I would have loved to add Bonnie, but he's not included here, so... For this prompt, you are meant to do experimental makeup on yourself, but I am once again changing it a little bit. Melanie fits this theme perfectly. In universe, she is a model as well as a superhero, and does a lot of experimental photo shoots. I actually have drawn some of those photo shoots as a way to experiment with coloring, shading, poses, composition, and all that stuff. This was my inspiration for this drawing. I wanted to make her look kind of like an alien. The composition is simple, just a bust. I wanted all the focus to be on her face and makeup. This was really fun. Blue suits her really well. So at first I was a little lost on what to do for this prompt, but then I saw a new TikTok trend where you draw yourself as a monster or a supernatural creature. This was perfect. After some brainstorming, I decided to draw myself as a haunted doll. I love dolls, I love creepy stuff, baby dolls kind of freak me out, it's perfect. I did my best to make this look really rough and messy. I don't know how well I achieved that, but with some filters and effects it looks creepy enough, I think. I like the face, though I think I should have put more effort into the dress and chair. For this section I want to give a little blood warning. Again, it's nothing too crazy, but if that's something you do not want to see at all, skip to this timestamp, and of course look out for these drawings on the final slideshow, starting at this point in the video. For the very last prompt, I wanted to do something more complicated and experimental. I just had to include my character Elsa. Right now I'm having a little phase where I draw her a lot. I decided to draw her carving pumpkins, in a witch costume, looking as evil and beautiful as ever. Elsa is from the same story as Bonnie, Sam, Miku, and Dan, and I don't know how I failed to mention this until now, but that story also has to do with magic and witches. Bonnie and Elsa are both witches. Elsa is also the main villain. She got her powers earlier than usual. She was so proud and excited about it, and studied all kinds of spells, even the forbidden ones. She always wants to be the best at what she does, and she doesn't mind using her magic as a shortcut. What really fuels it as well is that usually a witch would get the powers from her mother, but Elsa's mom didn't actually have them, just carried the gene. That can happen, but it's extremely rare. And when it did happen, Elsa's family was extremely happy and put her on a pedestal since very early age. Her mom wasn't very happy though. She was devastated when her daughter's powers showed up. She always saw the powers in her family as a curse and didn't want anything to do with it. Because of that, their relationship is pretty strained. Elsa also dated Dan's brother Ben. They both liked each other but were too scared to confess, so she put a love spell on him, thinking it won't do any harm. But it did. Over time, Ben became really possessive and scary from the spell, to the point that he became a completely different person. Elsa rejected him, breaking his heart, and he passed away. Elsa moved away, but came back years later. I'm still working out her motivations for coming back. I'm jumping between her wanting to revive Ben and just coming back seeking more power. This is a very quick recap. I recommend watching these videos for more details. I love drawing Elsa and imagining what she would do. She's beautiful, sassy, evil, and powerful. She gives me so many ideas. The most recent idea I had is her with revived Ben. He's a zombie, completely obsessed with Elsa. She's obsessed with him. I don't know, I find this so interesting. I don't know if I want to make it actually canon, but it's fun to imagine and draw. It's also very fitting for the spooky season. Anyway, I think this drawing was a nice finisher for this challenge. It looks nice, it's different from what I usually do, it's spooky. I'm pretty pleased with this. And that's finally it. Sorry for all the lore dumping, hope it wasn't too much. I really enjoyed doing this. It was nice to have some directions on what to draw. Often I'm in a mood to draw but don't have any ideas, so this was nice. I also let myself get a bit more loose at times. Previously I wouldn't dare to post unfinished digital art, but if I can do that with traditional art, why isn't it the same for digital? The topics were also really interesting. I did feel like I was kind of getting stuck in what I draw, either my characters or one of 3 medias I like. I also experimented a lot with coloring, shading, poses, and composition. Some of the experiments were more successful than others, but at least I gave it a try. I think these kind of challenges are really cool. You just need to find what works for you. I like these kind of sillier prompts. I did it at my own pace, didn't force myself, and finished it. I'm pretty sure this is the first time for me, But that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, comment, all that. Check out my other socials, they will be on the screen and in the description. Stay safe, and I'll see you in another video. Bye, stay cringe, bye!